When you think about Elon Musk's companies, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, they seem like they're all over the place, right? Tackling totally different problems. But what if I told you they're all connected, that there's a single, massive mission driving every single one of them? Well, today we're going to dig into the core philosophy behind it all, using his own words as our guide.
And it really all starts with this one simple idea. Musk has said, look, for all our flaws, he really loves humanity, and he thinks we deserve to have a good future. So this isn't just about building a business for him, it's something way more personal that really shapes everything he does.
Okay, so what does a good future even mean to him? It's a huge question, and the answer takes us way beyond just electric cars and rockets and out to our very survival on a cosmic scale.
So first up, let's just zoom out and look at the big picture. Why Mars? What's the point? Well, the goal here isn't just about exploring for the fun of it. It's about something much, much bigger. It's about protecting the future of consciousness itself. Musk basically talks about this whole mission as humanity's life insurance policy. The core idea is simple. We need a backup. I mean, think about it. Whether the threat is some dinosaur killer asteroid, a disaster we create ourselves, or even the sun eventually expanding, having a second home would mean that the light of consciousness doesn't just get snuffed out.
But how on earth do you actually do that? For decades, there was this one giant roadblock, the absolutely insane cost of getting to space. And this, right here, is where SpaceX just completely changed the game.
You see, for the entire history of spaceflight, rockets were basically disposable. These incredibly complex, wildly expensive machines were built, launched one time, and then poof! They were just thrown away in the ocean or burned up in the atmosphere. It made going to space so expensive it was almost impossible to think big.
Musk has this great analogy that just makes the old way sound as ridiculous as it was. Imagine buying a brand new car, driving it from one city to another, and then just throwing it in the scrapyard. You'd never, ever do that. So the whole mission for SpaceX was to build rockets that could do the equivalent of landing, refueling, and taking off again. And that would completely upend the economics of space travel.
And let's be clear, we're not talking about some small improvement here. Musk calculates that if you can get full and rapid reusability, you could drop the cost of getting to orbit by a factor of 100, maybe even 1,000. This isn't just making things a bit more efficient. It's the fundamental breakthrough that suddenly makes a city on Mars actually possible from a financial perspective. So how in the world did he solve a problem that stumped the best engineers for over 50 years? Well, the secret sauce is this mental model he uses for everything. It's called first principles thinking. Now, instead of just looking at what everyone else has done, which is kind of like reasoning by analogy, first principles thinking forces you to go all the way back to the absolute basics. You break a problem down to the fundamental truths you know are true, the things you can't argue with, and then you build your argument back up from there.
So let's see how this actually works. Okay, problem. Rockets are crazy expensive. Instead of just accepting that, he asked, well, what are they made of? It's aerospace-grade aluminum alloys, titanium, copper, carbon fiber, stuff like that. Then he asked, okay, what's the price of those materials on the open market? And what he found was that the cost of all the raw materials was a tiny, tiny fraction of the rocket's final price. So that meant the real problem wasn't the stuff itself, but the incredibly inefficient way it was all being put together.
Just look at this incredible gap he found. The raw materials for a rocket cost only about 2% of the final sticker price. That massive 98% difference wasn't about physics or the cost of the materials, it was just a giant inefficiency in how things were built. And for SpaceX, that gap, that was the opportunity. By bringing all the manufacturing in-house and redesigning everything from scratch, they could attack that 98% head-on.
Okay, so with the cost problem on its way to being solved, the focus could finally shift to the real prize, not just visiting Mars, but actually building an entirely new branch of human civilization there. So when might this actually happen? I mean, is this science fiction? Well, Musk has laid out a timeline that makes this feel incredibly real. He thinks, best case, the first people could be heading to Mars in just 5 years from now. A more conservative guess, 10 years. It's coming up fast.
And it is so important to really get the scale of what he's talking about here. This is not Apollo 2.0. The goal is not to just go, plant a flag, take some pictures, and come home. The whole point is to build a self-sustaining city, a place that could survive and even grow even if the ships from Earth just stopped coming one day.
And using that first principles thinking again, Musk has even sketched out ideas for how a Martian society could work. He's talked about a direct democracy where people vote on issues themselves instead of through representatives. And he imagines the laws being super simple, easy to understand, and, this is key, easy to get rid of. He treats laws like software that needs regular updates, not like these permanent things that just pile up and get more complicated forever.
And what about money? Well, this is where the laws of physics create a really cool problem. Because of the speed of light, you can have up to a 20-minute communication lag between Earth and Mars. For something like Bitcoin, which needs everyone to agree on the transaction history all the time, that delay makes it pretty much unusable. So the practical answer? Mars is almost certainly going to need its own local, native digital currency.
So, after all this galaxy-sized vision, what does it all mean for us, right here, back on Earth? Well, Musk often boils his whole philosophy down into a few key pieces of advice for anyone who wants to make a difference.
And his advice is actually pretty straightforward, but it's deep. He says you should build a broad base of knowledge by reading everything you can. Talk to people from all different walks of life so you can connect different ideas. Find that sweet spot where your talents and your passions line up. And this one's huge. Reject the idea that for you to win, someone else has to lose. Instead, focus on creating new things, on making the whole pie bigger for everybody. The ultimate goal is simple. Just try to be useful. And really, it all just comes down to this. Forget about profits or fame for a second. The real way to measure a life well lived, he suggests, is to ask yourself, did you contribute more to the world than you took from it? It's a simple but pretty powerful way to live.
In the end, Musk says something really interesting. He says that finding the answers is often the easy part. The really hard part, the most important job, is figuring out what the right questions are to begin with. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? With all the challenges and all the opportunities we have ahead of us, what is the most important question we should be asking about our future?